Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Ray Bearer, The Maid and the Crocodile, chapters 24 through 27. In these chapters, Sade is like, why am I getting annoyed with a crocodile? And then I'm like, because he's annoying and he's not listening to you. And she's like, I think it's because he's annoying and he's not listening to me. And I'm like, that's what it is. And then she's like, but why am I so annoyed? And I'm just like, girl, welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn.
So, is that just me?
No, it's not.
just wanted to double check.
I especially love when she asked Young, like, has he always been like this? Has he always been this annoying? And she's just like, yeah.
Instantaneous. Yes, indeed. He has. Yeah.
Yeah, these were some fun chapters. There's some change in direction of our small Sade and a little less small every chapter.
Yeah, definitely. The thing that I thought was sort of like surprising, though, is that I expected after he amplified her voice for her to start to wonder about him taking it away.
Mm-hmm.
And she has not put that together yet. And I just really expected her to.
Yeah. I thought that we were going to, because that hasn't come back up. And, we both talked about how we were wondering what was going on there. And I told you I had a real strong suspicion that he was behind it. But we talked about, wouldn't it be cool if it was something else, like something sort of more internal from her that kept her from doing it. But, so I thought we were like, oh, we're going to get to it. But she does not question it at all. It just doesn't. And so I don't know if I'm supposed to understand that she's just not thinking that way and it'll be revealed later. Or if the book is just like, yeah, that wasn't a thing. So that's why we don't need to talk about it. Like, I'm still very much in the dark on what it is. You know what I mean? But
I feel like it is what we thought. And it's just taking a little longer to get there because it has to wait until they're at their most intimate, heartfelt before she realizes for maximum drama.
Because otherwise, why are we getting a hint that he can do this with her voice, that he can do any kind of magic with her voice, right? That's the whole point of that being interjected, right? So yeah. And
the ongoing theme of him just wanting to take control of her life and thinking he knows what's best for
love
her,
when when she's thinking to herself about how he's really no different than everybody else, every other giant who feels like they're entitled to tell her what her life should be, even though he clearly is not taking himself that way. He doesn't see himself. And then like the moments where he's like very dismissive of what she does, like, you could be more than a maid, and she has to be like, are you trying to say that like I haven't this, what I do has no value? What? I really enjoyed the moments where she pushes back and she's just like, wait a minute, oh God. Let's
anytime she's pissed, she's like, I'm gonna call you that. I know you hate that.
I'm gonna start. I keep saying I'm gonna start whipping that around, but I probably shouldn't.
Just calling people "oh God" out of nowhere. What the fuck are they gonna say to it? That'd be so funny. Actually, you should.
I feel like it's not mine. It's not my culture. It's not my language for me to be, bandying it about. But I really, really want to.
I would love it if you started like stealing some stuff from like Nordic culture.
Oh my God.
And you just appropriate the fuck out of it and just be like, well, I don't know my culture, so I'm taking it from the dominant, allegedly best culture.
To the mighty halls of Valhalla.
It doesn't sound right when you say
I already have my Viking dreadlocks since they invented it, according to internet discourse.
There is nothing more immediately tiring in like comment sections for me than the dreadlock debate. It is just so predictable and so boring at this point of just like, I know exactly what they're going to say. And I know how many laugh reacts they're going to get. And then people are going to respond. And they're not even going to respond with like good factual information. It's going to be insult so that person can say this is ad hominem and therefore irrelevant. You know, like it's all just going to be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I love that I just, you know, am just not participating in those conversations whatsoever.
That's
like,
good for protect your peace.
I am just like,
yes.
yeah, no. And like, I know I'm supposed to have like super strong feelings about white people who have dreadlocks. I look at, like, I get a certain kind of like, but it doesn't go much deeper than that for me. I'm just like, I mean, if you want to do that to your scalp, I guess.
That's really what it comes down to for me. And granted, you know, I do not have a dog in this fight, but I always just think, let them look stupid. I mean, go ahead and let them do this thing that makes them look like an asshole. It's fine. You know,
if you want to have the Grinch fingers, more power to you.
That's your prerogative. Go nuts. Okay.
You know, because I understand, like, I'm not changing your mind. You know, I understand that I'm not going to suddenly be the one that changes your mind and your perspective on that. So have at it, but know that we are snickering. You should be aware. But again, you don't have to change your life based on other people's, you know, snickering. What's the other one that I don't like? Is it sniggling? Sniggling.
Sniggering.
Sniggering. Yeah, I don't like that one.
Yeah.
I'm always like, the fuck did you just say to me?
Like George always wanting to say somebody, instead of them being cheap or miserly, he's like, they were niggardly about it. And I'm like, George,
why?
Did you have to? For real?
Yep,
Come on now.
You just couldn't help yourself, could you? Yeah.
Okay. Wow. We really got completely off,
already.
And it was like a minute and a half.
All right. Let's bring it in. All right.
So chapter 24 is our two folks going to the market. I love
this. There was like nothing about this that I didn't love. I loved how he's dressed, that he has gone and made himself up, you know, because that's just who he is. I wanted to match you.
I really love this energy. This is something that I've like consistently started to realize is a fun signal when you're first dating somebody. If they're like, I want our outfits to go together. Oh, it's like, just for me, something that I really like. Yeah.
I have never been
Owen and I do it now, like without even really thinking about it.
That's amazing. I love that for y'all. I don't think I have ever had that. The couple like matching outfits, even like intentionally or unintentionally. Me and Steven eventually just ended up dressing alike, but that's because we were old and we've been together for almost 30 years. It just sort of happens, like you said, like you both come out dressed and you're like, oh shit.
We both happen to have a lot of maroon tops and black bottoms, and here we are.
And so it's like, our whole wardrobe is band t-shirts and jeans. So okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, he comes out, he's smelling good. The skin is glistening. There is possibly some highlighter on his cheeks. I mean, I just loved all of this. And she is looking at him like, sir, this is a Wendy's.
That's exactly it. That's the precise energy. I remember it was before I started to get into the period of my life where I was becoming a lot more aware of taking care of my looks for boys. And I was going down to New Haven with some friends to just shop. And there was a friend of mine that got all panicked because she hadn't gotten a chance to shave her legs before we went. And she went and like dry shaved with shaving foam in the bathroom. And I remember just being like, who is going to notice you haven't shaved your legs? Like, I was so baffled. And, you know, a couple of years later, I was like, okay, I guess I get it more now. I was still not the type to care that much. Right. But it was just the same sort of vibe. I'm like, we're going to like the Hamden New Haven border strip mall. You really do not have to do all of this for that. But all right, I guess knock yourself out. And I also like too that, like, you know, he's pretending to be a fop for this revolution, but also it's clearly he's a little fop. He's a little drop, a drop of fop
in him.
Oh, de fop. So they head in, and she specifically says that she doesn't want to go to the market she's most familiar with because it's where the orphanage was. Yeah. And we find out later that this asshole had thought for a moment about bringing her there anyway, just because she needs to face her fears.
Yeah.
Even though she explicitly did not want this. And it's really gross.
Doesn't listen. Even like the person and the type of person or the people who are claiming to be like, you know, I'm an ally. But, you know, but they're just so steeped in their own privilege that they don't see how they are engaging with the other person, especially if there's a power differential.
Yep.
And he is just, you know, he is steeped in, even though he's like sort of post dead, if that's a thing. But you know, the privilege that he lived with when he was a living person, a boy king, as she often calls him, his mindset hasn't changed. Because he hasn't unpacked his shit. He hasn't done the work. You know, we're # do the work, and he hasn't. He played revolutionary, but he's like when you follow leftist pages. And they're all like fucking theory, you know. Even though he does have his hands dirty because he was in the streets, you know, in the original 2 books.
Yeah, but he did put his money where his mouth was and literally died for it. Like I'm not trying to call him a fraud.
Exactly, but the way he's interacting with small Sade is giving that very particular type of energy when the boys, you know, not just boys, but when the fellas, the folks. The you know, the thems and the theys, when people start getting really in their bag about quoting, you know, this revolutionary Lenin or Marx or whoever it is they're talking about, and you're just like this, and then they're doing paragraphs of comments, and you're just like, bro.
I mean, bro, I need to pay my electric bill. I appreciate all of this, but I also have to buy groceries and get new tires for my car. So does this help with that? I don't feel like it does. Assist with practicalities, immediate needs.
Yeah.
And that's like the sort of headbutt between the two of them is just how much he wants her to focus on big picture. And she is like, I don't get to do that, dude. I am trying to stay alive, and you don't really seem to understand how immediate an issue this is for most people.
Yep.
And
that's exactly right.
It's interesting because, like, you know, in a lot of ways, what he is trying to insist to her, he is not entirely wrong either. He is trying to get her to see that, like, she can be bigger. She can do like accomplish things and step out of the sphere that she has assigned herself. Right. So he's not completely the antagonist in that sense.
He makes a
but
wonderful...
he's trying to make it sound like way easier than it is.
He makes a wonderful point to her, which we know is true in both this book and in real life, where he's trying to say, these things that happen in your day-to-day are part of a larger system that needs to be addressed, right? Like, he's correct. He's not wrong at all on any of that. It's just that that meeting in the middle that is so tricky, you know. And like you said, they're bumping heads because they're having, you know, difficulty in finding like a middle ground where they both can stand and be like, oh, I see, I get it, I get what you're saying, and you get what I'm saying. They're just like sort of not on the same page. And at one point his feelings are a little hurt too. But
yeah, it's interesting because like he seems to understand what it means to really put in work and be willing to sacrifice, but he was in such a nihilistic state of mind when he did that that it almost feels like a cheat. You know what I mean?
Because he was so ready to die.
Yeah,
anyway.
it was like he didn't feel like there was anything to lose by that point because all he saw was big picture, which is like part of what she's getting frustrated with him here, having the same sort of nihilistic, well, I'm going to die anyway. And she's like, all you do is tell me I can shape my life. And then you just don't even try to shape yours. Like, what the fuck?
How dare you? And then makes him promise that he's not going to give up. Like, as long as, you know. But we've got like jumped like so wildly ahead. So
sorry.
Bringing it back to the market. I love this interaction.
Bring it back to the market.
This when she is trying to give him like tips on how you have to behave and how to haggle, how to barter, and he's like mimicking her. And
oh my God,
she's just like, I don't sound like that, but she's delighted, like he is making her laugh, and it's like full belly laughs, and it's so sweet. And she's telling him how you have to behave as though you are so disinterested you can't even bother to lift your arm to point at the item. You have to point with your mouth, with your lips, you know, and just make this noise, and then basically accuse the seller of treating you like you just fell off of a turnip truck, right? You know, who do you think I am? You think I just got here? This is my first day. And
I love all of this so much because it's really detailed in a way that feels true. And I really want to know where she learned all of this. Like she being Jordan Ifueko, the author, not the character.
Right.
Like, does she have experience with going into markets where you haggle? Because I've gone into markets where you haggle, but being a silly American, I did not haggle. I didn't understand how to do that. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. I knew that I had the money they were asking for and that they had nothing. And I was always like, fine, take it. I never really wanted to make an issue out of anything because I just was like, I felt very self-conscious and like with everything I had at my disposal, trying to like take something for less money from somebody who seemed like they did not have it to spare. It was just sort of mean-spirited for me. I wasn't in this sort of survivalist situation that she's in where people are trying to rob her and she doesn't have it, you know?
Yeah. I don't have any experience whatsoever in anything like this. I don't think I've ever haggled for anything in my life. I'm just kind of like, how much is this? Okay.
Right.
But also I haven't traveled. I haven't been anywhere, you know, I haven't really been out of the country. So that is very sad for me. I will say, there's an account that I don't follow them, but they just show up in my feed sometimes. And it's, a gentleman, a Greek gentleman, and he is married to a Nigerian woman, and his whole page is just listen to how my wife talks, and like listen to how she answers this question, and he'll go ask her something, and then pure poetry comes out of her mouth about the most mundane shit. It is just like the way the turn of phrase, the expressions, it's remarkable. And I was reading this with that particular woman in mind, and I was just like, I don't know, like I'm not Nigerian. I have never been there. I don't know a lot of Nigerian people in real life. Like I know people on the internet, but not like people that I see in real life. But
sure.
But something about this whole thing felt so fucking, it just felt right. I was like, this seems really, really accurate.
Yeah, and it's especially difficult for me to get used to the idea of just being like sort of disdainful of what they're trying to sell you, because I am somebody who wants to make other people feel at ease. So the idea of trying to like stonewall them, like I'm so unimpressed with this shit that you have that I don't think is worth anything. I just can't imagine wanting to like be that way. It just sounds so mean. And you know, completely legit what she is talking about here and the whys. But for me, I was just like, I don't know if I could do it, even if I knew that it was supposed to like be the smart move.
Yeah, I mean, well, we find out because Sade notices, and she can't really explain how she saw it either. But she, another young girl who is trying to buy something, catches Sade's eye, and she realizes that this girl is being scammed, and she practically runs over there to save her from this guy who's trying to rip her off by weighting the scales. And he's got like something like a rock or something on the scale that's like making it heavier, and she goes over and pretends that she knows the girl, and then sort of accidentally, in quotation marks, bumps it so that it knocks over like this cloth,
all the beans.
Yeah, and you can see, and then the whole crowd realizes that he's a cheat, and the whole crowd like turns on him. And I love that moment as well too. And the crocodile is like, how did you know? And she's like, I actually did know, not for sure, but the whole picture, she says, the vision of that bean seller. She was like, but she's watching the whole scene, and she says, some people, this hurt my feelings so bad, y'all. She said, some people are like cats, the ones that are allowed outside instead of being kept indoors. And basically, they're predators. They're going to kill anything that's smaller, even if they're not hungry. It's as though the very existence of people weaker than themselves make them restless. And she calls people like this outside cat people, those who see smallness and poverty as a crime to punish. And that hurt my cat-loving heart. But also, I was like, she's not wrong, though.
Yeah, she really isn't. It's the idea of like they just see that as something to punish also was like arresting as because it is that simple, even though it feels like it can't possibly be that simple. But it is like, otherwise the behavior wouldn't be so predictable in this way. But it's just so depressing to consider that people really feel this way, that I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you're already poor and with no power. Like, you deserve to be taken advantage of, you know. And you know, if you were a better person, if you were in higher standing, if you had more money, then you wouldn't be in a position to be taken advantage of. It's not my fault that you're in this position where I'm going to take advantage of you. And this crocodile is like really impressed by this. And this is when he's like, do you understand what you just did? A small nudge from you and an entire crowd of people united in common purpose. And she's like, I made a lucky guess and saved one girl and some beans. And he is just like already off and running. Like his mind is going, no, you spurred a community to action. And she describes a manic light had stolen into his eyes. I think that's really important that she describes it that way, because that is kind of letting us know that he is
his headspace.
Yes. Yeah. That he has left the room. He is no longer in the room with us. He is.
Oh God, if that isn't accurate.
Yeah, so
he has left the room.
So it says a small corner of her heart had lifted, because she says, a small corner of my heart lifted like a vine peeking up to face the sun. But I felt tired just listening, because he never mentioned what I had told him that I wanted all along, which is just to belong, to live each day in calm assurance. That's what her aspiration is. That's all she wants. And that's not enough. He's not even thinking about what she told him. He's off running on this other thing.
Yeah, this is something that I've been sort of noticing in myself, and I've also been sort of like, you know how it is when you begin to look at the properties around you that you've been consuming your whole life and the messaging that they have in them that you didn't notice. And just how often, and this comes up later as well in their conversation, how often, you aren't ambitious and that makes you inherently a loser. and how, why though? People don't necessarily all want big things. And that is good, because if everybody wanted big things, what would we do?
Yep.
We would be in quite a bad place, actually, because I was thinking the other day about weirdly about Back to the Future 3. Is it 3 where it's Biff, or is that 2?
I mean, Biff.
Either way,
Biff's in all of them.
Biff's, but where like Biff owns the future.
And
Trump,
that's the second one, yeah.
And how when we come back to the corrected present, he is once again detailing cars, and that is how you know that he's a loser, is that this is his job. Mm-hmm. And it just suddenly struck me like, what a shitty message that is, that everybody is capable of doing more and should want to do more, and if they don't, it's their fault that they haven't gotten more done. Based on what? Like, our just assumption that everybody wants the same thing, that is, just accepted. And it's like, no, everybody would like to be able to be comfortable financially. That is not the same thing as wanting to occupy a certain social position, mm-hmm. or like do a certain job or perform in a certain role. And we just have this like real shorthand for like, oh, so-and-so is a loser because this is their job. And that's all you need to know about them.
Oh, they work at Walmart. Ha!
Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's such a bummer to consider how much of my life growing up was like, you have to go to college or you'll end up flipping burgers. And that was just like instilled as the worst fate you could imagine. And we really do get that from him here, because he is not considering Sade's real life, because it seems like he's seeing this real life as like the prelude to her actual life.
Yeah.
Before she actually became something.
Yeah, because before, this is all the prelude to when she becomes important.
Exactly.
But because you can't be small and important.
Yes.
He also is like, it's time for your, first lesson. We need to get some eggs. Like, we need to get lots of eggs.
Yeah. So then we have this egging thing that happens. And you guys, the first thing I thought was, wow, you're just going to make the amenities clean up your eggs. I was like so irritated throughout this scene, because it's like immediately what I thought of.
And I think it's really interesting that Sade she does eventually think about that, but she gets caught up in, and I say caught up, but like really she's engaging for the first time in her life really with this rage that she has, that she's been suppressing. Yeah. And she gets sort of swept up in it, and and like rightfully so. Like she's entitled to the rage she feels.
Oh, but absolutely.
But yeah, I also was like, who do you think's going to clean that up? But then she like when it's over, she's like, shit, they're going to have to clean all that up. And when she expresses that regret, he completely hand waves it, shrugs his shoulders. It's a small price to pay. Yeah, it's small when you're not fucking paying it. Mm-hmm. Anything's small when you're not paying it. But and the way he dismisses it causes her a little bit of upset. Yeah. But she doesn't really say anything about it. Mm-hmm. I did like when Mama Dele actually is at the window,
is there to see it though,
and gets like egg. I don't think it says right into Mama Dele's open mouth face. I figure there's still a window there because she's at the window, so it didn't go in her face. Mm-hmm. But for a second, for just a second.
Although I don't think there's glass in the windows in this world.
See, I don't.
Maybe it did hit her in the face.
Right into Mama Dele's open mouth face, it says.
I guess it is.
I didn't even notice her come to the window. So because it says window there, it's like, for me, I think window, glass window, and not just like a cutout where, like, you know what I mean? But I can't remember explicitly if there's glass in these windows or not. I feel like you might be right, but I don't know for sure. But I chose to believe that egg smashed right in her fucking face.
Yeah, I think that's true. I was sort of worried that it was going to turn into like a whole thing with, and it sort of does, except it's Ewan that's getting the
blowback.
Ewan. I keep not pronouncing her name right, even though we do this every time. But yeah, the blowback, I had thought it was going to be like she sends somebody after, and she probably has after Small Sade already, and we just haven't seen it because she's been protected.
That feels like that's definitely a loose thread, that there might be goons afoot for Small Sade. Because that's the other thing too, is we don't know. I mean, Yoon. Now you got me doing it.
Yoon
is pretty convinced that Mama Dele is behind what happened, but I don't think she is.
Who do you think?
I think it's the dude. I think it's Lord Liao or whatever his name is. I think he did it because I don't know if Mama Dele can afford it.
That was my immediate thought as well, was like, how is she paying for these guys?
Yeah, I think that dude is because he definitely, he felt a way about when Dele mentioned that, because he thought for sure he was getting Dele, and so he was up in his feelings. So I think he might be the one behind sending those thugs out to her shop. And yes, I said thugs.
Oh, it's very problematic, RoShawn. Gonna get me canceled. So the like when they whisk away after this, because she throws these eggs and she gives like this is for making me eat worms, this is for leaving me alone with Lord Liao and making me climb the death trap stairs, and Hanuni's children and Onijibola's fingers, and treating the amenities like they are nothing when you owe them everything. And this is for my mother, Fola, called Mama Sade. Mama Sade. I wanted to mention too, and it was brought up in the Discord. I'm so sorry I don't have it open, and I'm afraid to open it. Although actually, with my new computer, I bet I can open Discord while I'm recording, and it will be fine. What a luxury. And it opened. It just opened right away. Oh my God, you guys. I can't believe how well this computer works. It's amazing. Thank you all so much. There is Kat in the Discord, in the no spoiler channel, says, one of the interesting things in these chapters that Natasha and RoShawn didn't cover at all was the first line, before I was born, my mother was called Fola. This shows that it's not just a nickname for Mama Dele, but a systemic thing. Women lose their own names when they have their first kid, and this sings truth to me in an uncomfortable way. There's an epidemic of parents, and mostly mums, because they still do the majority of childcare, losing their hobbies and personhood and only being known as who they are in relation to their kids, especially because they often only meet new people because the kids are friends or in the same class, club, etc.
That's very good. Yeah.
So
I really like that observation.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about it, because we had talked about the fact that, her being Mama Sade, I guess that's what that means, but we didn't consider the larger picture of what that means.
I wonder if it's because we don't have children.
It's certainly possible. Yeah. Because it's something I think I would have noticed with if it were due to marriage, that their names were different,
Yeah.
So
blind spot.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Kat. And thank you, everybody, once again, for providing me with a computer that can simultaneously open Discord as well as other things. It just feels so roomy. It's like, I could just do whatever I need to do.
This and it amazing. Just works. Boy, you are living the dream.
I really am. So this is when he says, it's a small price to pay for your first giant lesson. When you become a leader, you will make a better world for all amenities. The casualness with which he dismissed the discomfort of the inn staff made me frown, but he did not appear to notice. I bet he didn't.
Yeah, and she does not push back on this a little bit. They just kind of just move on. And there had been a thing earlier when I think there was a conversation about these lessons. He's going to give her these giant lessons. And she is like, well, you're going to have to, that comes later, the ant lessons. This is just when she's remarking on the fact that she's taking him grocery shopping because he needs to learn how to take care of himself. So he's talking about how hard, actually trying to prepare a meal was. And he's like, why did you convince me that this would be easy? Because it wasn't. And she says, you can't be good at everything. Some things take time. And even when it is boring, you do it to survive. And his response to that is, well, I can't die, remember?
Dude, you can use magic and that is eating you alive. Literally, that is what it's like. It's so frustrating. There's a moment earlier when they're in the market where she's trying to explain to him about something. And she says that he got a distant look as if he was enjoying my telling him about this and not actually hearing what I was telling him. And she's like, it bothered me, but I didn't have time to consider why. And, you know, you're not being taken seriously. He's seeing this as like, isn't she cute? Instead of maybe what she is saying is important enough that I should pay attention and learn this because it's valuable.
Yeah, that's the key.
It's really disrespectful.
That's the key right there. He's treating her like she doesn't have anything that she can teach him. That anything that she knows that comes from her smallness, like any of these sort of utilitarian things that she can do, that they're not important. Somebody else can get that done. Like it's a weird thing. Like for him, if you imagine his life going from being a boy king to being a crocodile in this magical house, his shit is getting taken care of for him like it was magic. You know, there was always somebody around to take care of his food and clean up his mess. And, you know, he didn't have to worry about any of that shit when he was alive. And he doesn't have to really worry about it now either because Bikini House is sort of enchanted and it just sort of runs on its own. And so that's one of those areas where he just doesn't see. He just doesn't see, like his privilege just keeps him from being able to see this and understand it. And he doesn't have any kind of like value. He doesn't value it at all. Like, oh, that shit just gets done. You know, the laundry just gets washed and food just gets prepared. That's all little shit that I don't have to be bothered with. That's why I can focus on these big ticket items. Everything is like, you know, big picture stuff. And also, he just has the nerve to be like really, really attractive while all this is happening.
Yeah, it's true.
Because they keep having these moments of closeness. And every once in a while, like their hands will touch. She goes to hand him back the earring that she had taken earlier. When she goes to take it out of his ear in the earlier chapter, there's a moment of like chemistry. And now she's handing it back and their fingers brushed and she has a sort of a gasp. And she happens to notice that more scales have shown up just from since this morning, and that it was the flying, that using that type of power on that type of stunt, the scales come really quickly when he uses the pale arts in that to that degree. And he admits that this is why he does the lodestones, because they don't take as much effort and so the cost isn't quite as high. And she's like, well, if you knew that, why would you fly me across town? And he says again to her that you don't have to worry about me when I change. I've already made arrangements for you to be safe.
I'm just sort of realizing something, and this is really interesting. Oh, Miss Ifueko, little sly devil. We have got two people who both think that ultimately they do not matter, but for entirely opposite reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she thinks she is too small and too nothing and needs to know her place and does not matter. And he thinks all of this is bigger than me. It's all for a greater purpose. I don't matter in the grand scheme. So I am sacrificable.
Mm-hmm.
How weird.
Yeah. This is the same energy he had when he was alive. Like, it hasn't changed.
No. It's just, I just never really considered about, like, it being at the root, him feeling like he doesn't matter. Like, it's both of them just setting their own potential aside in this weird inverted way. It's how odd.
And it's funny. It's not funny, but it's, I guess, interesting because the pressure that shaped him, right? The heaviness of being born into a royal family that was itself being sort of oppressed and led around by its nose by like a pack of warlords. That kind of made him small in a way, right? Like, and he made himself even smaller by pretending to be sort of this inept, bumbling, drunk fool, this fop, right?
Yeah.
So he made himself very, very small so that he could exist as the crocodile and be like the undercover revolutionary. So he had to make his sort of persona so insignificant as to not be like looked at twice. And because he is, like, I think like you just said, because he is prioritizing the grandness of what needs to happen across society to correct the ills, like, that is so big, you can't help but be small in comparison to it, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're existing in the shadow of that, then of course you would feel like, well, I as an individual don't matter because this bigger picture is so much more important than I am as an individual. Yeah. Interesting.
That's sad.
Yeah.
I'm sad for both of them. Like, he is still infuriating, don't get me wrong, but that is an overwhelming way to be. It's very relatable, though. You know, I think a lot of us have sort of gone through this like roller coaster of, how do I still care about anything every day when I know what's happening out in the world, and sort of feeling so helpless in the face of it that you just don't know what action to take and feel stymied by it.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry everybody. So as you said, Spell is beginning to take more hold. She is very annoyed at the fact that he is just trying to be like, you'll be fine. And she's like, oh my God, are you not hearing me? I am not trying to be fine. This is not about me. And he's like, I have no more use in this world, but you do.
Yeah. And he says to her that, you know, there's nobody else better to lead the oppressed people than her because she has lived it herself. She's experienced it. And he's just like all these lofty goals. Like, what if you could use your gift of spirit cleaning to help people who really need it? Not wealthy people, but people like you, people stuck beneath the roles the world has assigned them. And she says, it is not wise to help people forget their place, to encourage behavior that will get them cast out of their homes and villages like I did to my mother. And this is when he admits that he almost took her to her old orphan house because it would do her good to egg that place. And she is just like, I beg your fucking pardon? You were going to take me where? Even though I expressly told you I don't want to go there? And he, again, nobody wants to face their fears. but it's the only way to reach one's true potential. So again, just like everyone else, he is deciding what her life should be for her.
Yeah.
And she's also feeling a little bit like, but am I allowed to be angry with him? Like, I'm living in his place for free. How can I compare him to Mama Deli and people like her? And her instinct tells her it's because he feels entitled to pick your future for you, just like she did, just like everyone with power always has. And yeah,
this is the thing too, like the dynamic of how she feels like she owes him, so she isn't allowed to say things to him, and also setting aside the fact that she views him as essentially a god, and like what an unfair dynamic that is. Yeah. It's just, there's been a few times in this where I've been like, girl, why didn't you just say that to him? And then I'm like, of course you didn't say that to him. Like, like we get a bit of a reminder too at the very, very tail end of this section. Like, people are still being sacrificed to this guy. So
like, I forgot that was the thing.
Fully.
So they have this moment, and then they get interrupted because someone shows up. Oh my God, I can't keep doing this. Shows up, and she has her bird with her, and I was like, oh.
I know, I forgot about these guys.
I did too.
Haven't heard about fucking Tyro-sized rhinoceros in a while.
Oh, I forgot that's what hers was.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I wonder if we're going to see Terracide in this book at all. I feel like we're going to have to get like at least like one run-in, right?
That's how I've been feeling. It's just like there's probably going to be a moment, where she pops up and it'll be somewhat brief, but maybe not. I don't know.
We need a cameo. This is, when you do something like this, we got to have one or two people from the main swing by. Very special episode, a little crossover action, get the ratings up.
Exactly. I agree.
So she shows up and she is out of breath and in a state, and has got basically her whole life strapped to her back. And we find out that her home and her business was set upon by some goons who attempted to burn it to the ground, which thankfully it had rained before, so it was damp outside, so it didn't really catch. And her, what are they called? Emmy emeralds? What is her bird called?
I do not remember.
Not the names. I know I can't pronounce the name, but her guardian, her little guardian, her bird guardian, is what woke her up.
Emmy Erin.
There it is. Woke her up,
yeah.
And she was
soul guardian.
Was able to grab some of her plants and seeds and some flowers that she had been, growing, and she wants confirmation on what Dele said at the salon. She wants to know, is it really true? Did she really tell the whole party about our relationship? Did she really tell a room full of malicious nobles where I live? And Sade has to say, yes, it's true. She did exactly that. And she tries to soften it up. Like, well, she did it to show she wasn't ashamed. She did it to declare her love for you.
She's not buying that.
She did it to embarrass her mother. Dele wasn't thinking about me at all. She was doing what she has always done, indulging her own feelings and letting me pick up the pieces. Because we had quite a conversation about Dele. And this is not a good look.
It's really like, it felt a little out of character to me that it's Sade who is like, well, why was that such a big deal? She did it because she cares about you. I was like, Sade, come on. I feel like she would know. If anything, it should be the crocodile asking what the big deal is, So, but yeah, in the end, we still get there, so it doesn't really matter. But this like boils down to, well, I offered to like make a living for both of us. I was waiting for her to choose me, and she never did it. All she did was like hang on to her mother and continue on with this sort of like it's very performative. It just we had already sort of talked about this because Dele's mother throws this in her face that like you could have left at any time and you haven't. But for some reason, I foolishly didn't think that Ian would have noticed that herself.
Oh,
like I kind of thought that that they were early enough in their relationship that the idea of running away to be together wasn't quite on the table yet.
Gotcha.
And when she says this here and realizing like, not only has it occurred to her, but they have had the conversation before.
I was shocked that they had the actual conversation. I wasn't surprised that it had occurred to her, but that they had actually talked about it. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Because that makes it so much more painful. Like, you had this conversation. I've told you, I will support both of us. You don't have to work at all. You don't have to get your hands dirty. And and Dele still didn't choose her. Like, that's gotta fucking sting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this sucks.
Yeah. And having been sort of like in this particular type of situation where I was involved with someone whose parents did not approve of our relationship, and having him continue to live with his parents and sort of always being like, oh, I just need to stay here until I get settled, until like I get this thing or that thing, and then I can, tell them to go to hell and we can like have a life or whatever.
Right.
And being in a position of like, shit, they're really not picking me, are they? Well, shit, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, but also being like unlike my situation was different because I wasn't offering to support anybody. I was offering to be in struggle with them. but
listen, offering to share the struggle is still something.
But yeah, it's just like, it's not like a great like place to be. And then what really got me is how careless Dele was in this. How careless and thoughtless this declaration of love that she did at the salon really was. Because it does show that she's not thinking about Young at all. Like, it was not, this declaration didn't come from a place of deep love and care and like wanting to be truthful. Like she says, it was to embarrass her mother. And that really, really stinks.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And she basically is like, yeah, I bailed on my place because I knew that she was just going to fucking show up crying. And I didn't want to hear it. Making it about her again is the energy.
Yeah. So she's just like, can I just bunk here at Bikini House for a little bit, while I get my shit together? And Crocoile is like, did you tell the Ray Bears what happened? And she's like, absolutely not. I didn't leave the palace just to run whining back to them every time I get into a scrape. And I thought this whole thing was really interesting as well. This sort of like how out of place she felt growing up in the palace after coming back from the underworld with Terasai. And just sort of like, almost like the pressure we were talking about that plagued the Crocodile. When you're up that close against something so big, it can make you feel like sort of small, like you can't breathe.
Yeah. It's ultimately she's like, every advantage that I had and everything about the way they treated me and why they cared about me was due to the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I just couldn't stand to have everything on that condition anymore. The store was mine. I built it. I from the ground up, it was me. And if she just bought me the stuff for a bunch of shops, that doesn't matter. It's not mine. And he does not get it at all.
Sade gets it though. She gets it immediately. She's just like, that was like getting the job at the end. It was the first thing I had ever truly chosen for myself. I had convinced Mama Deli to hire me. I had won the affection of the amenities. I had made a home for myself. Yeah. So I like that they have this thing that they connect on, even though Crocoile is just kind of sitting on the outside of it. But again, he's not like the two ladies here. He's not like Young. He's not like Sade. He doesn't come from nothing. You know, he doesn't know what it's like to, I don't know, go through, not that he doesn't go through his own, because he has his own like trials and stuff. But it's just very different. It's just such a different dynamic for his personal experience compared to theirs.
Yeah, even though he was like fighting against these warlords to accomplish something for his people, he was still treated his whole life like he was important. You know, like there is a sense of just a place in the world. And even if it was for show, there was still a pretend dignity that went with that. Servants and people who came to visit, seeing him as a ruler and powerful, all of that, it may have been partially an illusion, but partially it was very real. And I think he just doesn't understand what it's like to not feel that way about yourself.
And you know what? It's interesting that you would think that he would, and maybe he does, and we just haven't gotten to that part of him yet. Because everything that he had because of who he was born as. And then he made certain choices to go and become a revolutionary and do that because he chose it. He chose that life for himself. But he doesn't seem to connect with them on this at all. Maybe he just maybe because the stuff they're talking about is into him just small stuff.
Exactly.
And it's just not.
I think that's it.
Because what is just having a little flower shop? What is that? What are you doing to change the world with that? You know, you should go back to the palace where the real change is, where the real important people are making change, and go be part of that.
Yeah.
So I love this thing too. Sade plans on spending the week looking for a new job. And every day she's like, today's the day I'm going out. But she never actually goes.
I love this so much. This is so relatable.
It really, really fucking is.
Just like, no. I'm doing it. I'm doing it today. I'm doing back to sleep.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know if this is going to be a thing or not, but I'm wondering if, because it says sort of like, it says a week slipped by and then another. The days are blending into each other in a parade of noiseless nights, and I'm wondering, is she just falling into routine, or is there sort of like the enchantment of the place is kind of lulling her into staying there? I'm not really sure if that's a thing or not, you know?
I really don't want it to be that. I hope it's not.
Yeah. I mean, you got to keep your eye on enchanted places, though. You know, you always got to keep your eye on them because, you know, I mean, because they enchanted. They be up to shit.
Well said.
But they have a nice little like routine going, and oh my god, Crocoile comes out with like a stack of books and scrolls to give to small Sade to empower herself with information. If you do not challenge the systems that are, Oh, I'm sorry. You do not challenge the systems that are because you cannot imagine any different ones. And she is like, sir.
Yeah.
I don't even read. What are you doing? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is so like, look, I know your heart's in the right place, but I am going to need you to take several steps back.
Calm down, please.
And think about the like.
You gotta meet people where they at.
I won't get into these. Well, right, and like also, not to get into specifics that are too personal for my life, but I have recently had a conversation with somebody who was very much trying to solve other people's problems before they worked on their own issues, because it was a nice way to distract themselves from what they were dealing with. And really starting to get this vibe from the crocodile here that like, is it really about how much you care about these people? Or is it that you know your own situation is so dire and you just don't want to engage with that because it makes you feel noble to set it all aside and do things for other people, but actually there's like a weird selfishness to it because it's for your own self-aggrandizement and ego, you know?
I mean, ego is often at the root of most things.
I would know nothing about it, but so I hear. Yes.
You get out of here.
I'm so elevated, I don't even have an ego. But for those who are less elevated than I am, yes, I'm sure.
Oh, I killed my ego, so I don't even know what this conversation is about.
It's dead.
Dead.
Ego, no. You guys, I feel so punchy. I don't know what's up with me.
It's been a long week.
So,
and a weird day.
It has.
Yeah, and then today was just a weird day all around. But so he decides to enchant the whole house with like the names of all the items so that she gets up in the morning and there's like glittering dust that spells shoe on her sandal and words over comb and mirror and soap and all that. And it's everywhere. It's all over the fucking house. And this is when she is like, has he always been this annoying? Every single tree in the garden has mango written on it. Like, you could have just did one tree with
that is
it's fine.
That like I really enjoy that it doesn't even say tree. It says mango, which like the mangoes should have mango written on them. The tree should have tree. I don't feel like he's even really put that enough thought into all of this. And I also, it's just like the insistence on her improving herself again when he is just clearly uninterested in doing this for himself. That is so tiresome.
You are so right, because he does it with flower too. He writes flower on each petal where it should be petal.
Right? Petal. Yes. It doesn't even feel like you're thinking this through, sir.
Oh, God. So once this doesn't work, this plan goes down the toilet. And so he decides what he's going to do instead is just follow her around reading at her, which doesn't sound annoying at all, right? Like, everybody wants that.
Look, I listen to audiobooks, so I'm probably somebody this would work for, actually.
I was going to say...
Can you imagine if you had, like, a narrator in your ear?
I was going to say this is like listening to podcasts all day, but your Audible is even better.
I just keep thinking about how, you know, I'm assuming that there are like some rehearsals that you do when you read an audiobook and you're trying to get people's voices down and stuff. And how if I were like spur of the moment trying to come up with a voice for people, how completely out of pocket some of their voices would start to be. Like all of a sudden we would have when Yon turns up and it's just like, you know, I didn't want the palace to just run whining back to them every time I got in a scrape. Like, Oh,
why does she sound like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins?
That is also what my listener would be asking me. I could do the crocodile as like, hey, have you told the Ray Bears what happened? See?
Oh my fucking God. What is happening?
You got to take down the system from the inside.
Oh my God. For fuck's sake.
These are my go-to voices for some reason when I'm trying to come up with weird voices. I'm trying to think of another one, like for Sade.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. Just thinking of Sade. I just had her sounding like a newsie in my head. And I'm trying to even like make that work in my mouth, and I'm keep starting to sound like Dick Van Dyke again. I'm like, how?
Like the extra, read all about it, kids.
Yeah.
Like one of them.
Yeah. Like a kind of Brooklyn. You've forgotten that books and I are not friends. Has the crocodile always been this annoying? Now I'm getting Australian. We're veering. It's no good.
You remember when Liz Lemon is trying to do a Jamaican accent and then it veers into Irish?
Oh, man.
Oh, shit.
I'm going to moidurize him. I love the word moidurize. We should have made that something that was more real and less a
Bugs
joke.
Bunny tried really hard, but it just didn't stick.
Yeah, that's it. Sade will sound like Bugs Bunny. Perfect. Nailed it. I feel like I really got the sense of her character. Oh, Christ.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Anyway, sorry everybody for that departure.
So he's following her around, reading these books out loud, stuff about the grassroots movements of the working class and contradictions inherent to a market-driven existence.
Come see the violence inherent in the system. Help, I'm being repressed.
Oh. And this is when she's like, all right, you know what? If I have to listen to these giant lessons, you're going to fucking do some ant ones. So you're going to learn how to do chores. You're going to fucking clean up these wine jugs and do it by hand, not with sorcery. Boil them to get the smell to go away. And at first he's like pretending like, oh, I can do this. It's no big deal. It's like, oh, it's a lark. But when the novelty wears off, all of a sudden she catches him cutting corners because, of course, like he's scrubbing the linen, and then a minute, like she turns her back, all of a sudden it's miraculously hanging out to dry and it's white as it can be. He's only half-heartedly listening to her instructions.
And like, again, the more he does this, the faster he's transforming.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is part of the appeal to him, if anything.
Yeah, it's like a very slow motion suicide.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's fucked up.
And then we have
That's what it is.
We have Cleme. It says, who still seems to think that I could break the crocodile's curse because he's taken it upon himself to bully the crocodile into matching my routine. So he goes and wakes him up every morning by yelling in his ear and then biting his ankles until he gets up out of bed to go into the kitchen. And he is, even as they are working in the kitchen, and there's a moment where his hand is over her hand while she's showing him how to chop something or dice something. And he's still like, we could just use my powers for this and all the work will be done in an instant. Like, sir. And she has to tell, she's like, absolutely fucking not. You gotta stop. What are you doing? And she says, your powers make you lazy. And he was like, I was lazy before I got powers.
Which I did actually like as an answer, because we know that is entirely
right,
correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just some, he's doing the same thing that Dele did, first of all, which is pretending that he can do the work and then immediately noping out of it. He also is doing a thing that men do in general, which is everything gets done for them. And so once they wind up in a relationship where a woman knows how to do things, the dude just like puts his hands up like he has no earthly idea and can't be expected to know things. And the fact that he also doesn't value it, even though it's crucial.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But he can just say things that are like, well, don't you want to do something that matters? And it's like, hi, I don't know if you're aware of this, but people that like are running a revolution also need to eat dinner and have somewhere to sleep and like look presentable in clean clothing. And that's all actually quite important, but you're just expecting that to all appear
just like magic,
because it has, like I can't help but wonder if Taurasi can turn off this magic in the house and make it so that he does have to do more for himself. I mean,
it probably would be helpful. I wonder how much Taurasi knows about his transformation and what's moving it along faster. Like, we know that he's still in contact with her because he's doing like the gigs with the cultists and all that. But I don't know, like, if he's actually seeing her and if he's hiding it from her or not. I'm really curious about that. We know that she knows something because there's a tapestry, right? So they're aware that there's something, but I just don't know exactly to what, like how much they know. So they now they're outside in the garden, and we have a scene where they are all working kind of in the field, I guess, in the garden, maybe is a nicer way to say that. And she starts to sing, and they all start to sing together, and then she is expecting to see spirit silk all over the place. And she sees it on herself and Young and the Crocodile, but there's none anywhere in Bikina House. And she is just like, wow. I have never seen a place like this clean, unburdened, she calls it, unburdened by the pulsing layer of silver. A clean slate. And I wonder if maybe that is what's like if that's comforting, like what it feels like to be in a place like that that's not like so weighed down in the silt of everything. And definitely like how light you must feel compared to how you feel in other places, or if she feels a lightness, there, a calmness, a stillness, or whatever you want to call it. So let's see, we gotta let's try to move it along a little bit.
Yeah, so we have then this, when she's like, do you think that what I do doesn't matter? That's not what I meant. And again, he just like waves it off. But this is when she sort of starts to get irritated about him saying that she needs to like shape the world that she's in. And it's, again, the thing about the two of them is that each of them is right in a way, but they both are very limited also in the ways that the other has picked up on. So they're each on these extreme ends of the spectrum. And they both have valid points. Yeah. So let's see, he turned my chin. When I try to shape my world, I end up destroying it. That is a lie told to subdue slaves who outnumber their masters. It is the lie on which every empire is built. Despite my anger from moments earlier, I wanted to kiss him then. Badly. And deep down, I knew why. And all of this, there has been something developing between the two of them. And he gets very close and says, "Ask me, and I will," which is a very hot line. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it works. It works real well.
Yeah, she says, "Not yet." Eventually, he's like, "What is it that makes you push back against the way that you feel? Is it because I'm turning into a literal crocodile in front of your very eyes?" And she's like, "Oddly, no. That I have no problem with." But yes, I am getting ahead of myself. So we have the conversation about why it is that in this like courtyard they're looking at, there are going to be more common people, but they are going to still bow to the nobles. The nobles don't have weapons. They're outnumbered. So why? And she says the cultists claim to speak on behalf of the Adagio. And the cultists look strange. They capture people's attention. And then they are all saying the same thing. Everyone else is messy, disorganized. But a lot of those commoners do know what they want. And she names all of these things that are just part of like a pleasant everyday life. And he's like, yeah, but that's hard to like, you know, elucidate. What's the word I want? Evocate? It's hard to say.
Articulate, but I don't think that.
Maybe articulate is the word I want. That's hard to articulate, like, simply. Order and beauty, hail the Adagio, is a very direct, simple message. And this gets her thinking of a song and how she could maybe create something that unites them. And she begins, and he does the thing where he amplifies her voice so loudly. And she tells him to stop, and he is not understanding why. And is like, maybe they should look at you. Maybe you're the giant they need. And she says, I'm beginning to think that standing tall is less useful than standing together.
I love that. I love that she tells him, because he's like, these people need guidance, and the point of the lessons is that you learn to use your voice. And she says, I'm using my voice now, Uga. Shut your mouth and listen. I said, Go ahead now. Here we go. Here we go.
Amazing. What if there's nothing wrong with being an ant? What if together we could be stronger than any giant? When I opened my eyes, the crocodile was watching me for once, looking a little lost. You may use your pale arts on my voice, but only for a moment, and only if we leave this silly tower. We should be with those people, not above them. So she goes down into the crowd, and she does this thing where she darts around to make it seem as if this chant is happening organically amongst a bunch of different people. And it's our hands built it. We are the beauty. A city belongs to its people. Yeah. And you're not listening to the audio.
No, I'm not.
This,
no,
right?
I'm not.
She actually does sing this, and I quite liked it. It was like, it felt song-like, but still catchy. Oh. And I'm really curious, like, do they determine the tune ahead of time? Does she just sort of pick a song that she imitates a little bit, you know, but it was consistent every time she did it. So she definitely had it memorized.
And it picks up, the crowd picks up the chant, the song, whatever. And then eventually it's a whole throng of people singing this all out together. Then the music just fills the whole square. And, people are climbing up on the statue of Inoba, the old emperor, and and now the crowd is getting a little rowdy because you have these two factions like head to head, and it's time for them to like get out of Dodge, so they leave. But she looks back down at the square, and they are still singing her song. And he acknowledges / admits that her way was better. Singing from below instead of above. You were right.
But he seems really like unsure,
Yeah.
despite being declarative. It's like he doesn't quite get it.
She says that he sounds conflicted, as though he was untangling a mire of thoughts he did not like. Yeah. He's rethinking some things, I think, maybe about himself and why he views things the way he does. And, you know, it would be a real shake to his core, you know, all the things that he thinks he knows, all the things that he believes on how these things get accomplished, that there's only one way to, you know, get to your goal. And he's been so rigid about that. Like, it's got to be this way. This is the way to revolution. And, yeah, now he's got to grapple a little bit with understanding that maybe he doesn't always have all the answers or all the right answers, you know?
Yeah. God forbid.
God for fucking bid.
I know, I hate that. So this is when they have the conversation about why it is that she's pulling away from him. And he finally says, I need to show you the plan.
Yeah.
He takes her through a portal he has created with a piece of his tailbone, which is horrifying.
Don't ask how I got it out. No, we will not be asking.
Thank you. I am fine. And he explains that he is, as soon as he really feels the transformation coming, he is going to come here and let himself be trapped with Ixalix. And she will have Bakina House to live in for as long as she wants it.
Yeah.
And this is when she's like, okay, you know what? No, stop it. Enough of this. She says, no more of your sad, pretty speeches, which I loved. Yeah. And then they get interrupted by the fat molar door in which a girl is shoved through, allegedly to be sacrificed.
Kicking and screaming.
And we have a whole new problem that we have to deal with for the moment.
I know we joked about it at the beginning, but I had really forgotten that this was something that was happening. It did not occur to me that we were going to get, like, it wasn't on my radar. I completely forgot that this was a thing that was going on. So now we have a new person in their little family, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see. I mean, because she doesn't have to stay, you know, and they haven't been staying. They've been, you know, the girls, as they come through, have been going out and having new lives for themselves, picking different, like, lodestones to go to. So this person, this young girl, might only be there for a night, or maybe, you know, I don't know. Maybe Small Sade has a different idea about what to do with these girls when they come in, like maybe asking them what they would like. Because remember, that was the problem that she had with him before, when he tells her, like, oh, and then I just send them through, and she's kind of like, oh, you don't ask them what they want. So yeah, I'm very, very interested to see how this goes. And yeah, we have, like, this is going into the last part of the book. So there's not a lot of time left for whatever is going to happen. Yeah. There's not much.
We're getting through
there's
it.
Not much left at all. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited though. I'm enjoying being unspoiled with you.
Yeah, it's
fun.
It's
a very different experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to do it this way. I was going to ask you, like, do you have any predictions? I really don't. I just said mine.
Yeah, my only prediction is that she's going to find out that he was the one who stole her voice, and she's going to flip out on him. And I don't know how he really learns the lesson, though. It's the kind of thing where the usual way this works is that a person is just, I'm sorry I offended you, but doesn't quite really in their heart get it. And I just really want him to actually get it. And I don't know if it's going to take him having choice taken away from him, perhaps, or who could even do that to him. So,
yeah, I guess we'll see. I like the idea of him finally getting it, because someone has removed his power. Like, I don't mean like his sorcery power. I mean like his agency or whatever.
No,
right?
yeah, his agency. Yeah.
We also still need to wrap up into whether or not she can do something about this curse. Like, what's going on there? Like, if that's going to be a thing or
definitely.
not. So, yeah, there's a lot of questions and not a lot of time. So, I feel like it's
maybe the curse is just that he doesn't want to live.
Girl, listen.
Maybe that's it.
Maybe. And the minute that he decides that his life matters, then it's gone.
Yeah.
Shit. Because that's kind of her curse too, even though she's not like turning into a crocodile. You know? She's kind of got a curse as well. Interesting. Oh, I can't wait to find out. I'm so excited.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you all so much for listening. I have really got to run. We were on a hard out today because I have to take Pippin to the park. But I will be greeting new patrons next episode. I promise you. And I might do at the top of the episode. Really switch things up.
Keep them on their toes. Keep them on their toes.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get unspoiled. Sometimes you're going to get a really bad Brooklyn accent.
A really bad Brooklyn, Australian accent. Oh, God. All right, guys. Thank you again. We love you. Until next time. Tele, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
I don't know what that one even was.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.